at the conference table.
Guru's great too.
Welcome to The Executive Show.
Nothing easy.
On 95.7 The Game. Brought to you by Yellow Sack. Try a dumpster bag for easy waste removal. Less mess, reduce stress. Budget friendly, clean freely. Call 833-3YELLOW or go to yellowsack.com.
All right, it's a Warriors Wednesday. It's brought to you by Kirby, your driveway mechanic. Check out Kirby at CURBEE.com. Let's get right to it. President and General Manager of the Golden State Warriors, Bob Myers. What's up, Bob? How are you?
No, not much. How are you guys?
We're doing pretty well. 13 games left. I wasn't here 2 weeks ago, as you may know.
Yeah, which was a great show.
Right.
Thanks.
Listen, 13 games left in this season. Then you have hopefully the postseason. Is there anything new to share about your personal situation in terms of this team and moving forward with your future as the president?
No, nothing new. Same stuff. I mean, there's a lot with our team right now that's taking up all my time anyway. So same answer, Steinmetz.
All right, I got
answer.
I got to ask now. Guru's got
Got to ask.
Yeah, Bob, good to talk to you. You know what we do for a living, Bob. The people, they got questions. They love the Warriors, and Andrew Wiggins is a big part of it. And last time we spoke, I asked you politely, did you expect him back? Bob, can you share with us if that's off the table? Has there been a delay, or just what's going on with Wiggins and the Warriors?
Nothing different than before, but same answer,
Okay.
Unfortunately. I get why you got to ask. I get why the fans are interested. There's nothing wrong with that. But we got to respect him and his life and his privacy, just like I would respect yours. But that doesn't mean people have to like that answer. But in our opinion, it's the right answer. Certainly, I'm sure he wants to be here. We want him here. But beyond that, I can't help shed light, because if I was in the situation he's in, I asked people to keep it private, I hope they would. So just honoring that, respecting that.
Gotcha.
Nothing really new. I shared last time that it wasn't the plan that he wouldn't be back. I know some people have reported that. I haven't heard anything along the lines of he's not coming back. There's speculation on that, but I haven't been told, hey, look, I'm not coming back. Nobody said that to me.
Gotcha. Bob Myers joining us on 95.7 The Game. The Executive Show. Hey, you guys have 5 road games coming up, and you guys obviously have struggled on the road. Do you feel like each road trip is an opportunity where you can look at this team and say, you know what, maybe we do have a chance if they go 3-2 on this trip, something like that? Would it change your overall outlook?
It's interesting. I read an article today that if people really care, it was a good article on The Ringer by a guy named Zach Cram, I think, about our team and home road splits, and they're kind of historic as far as our home road record. Not only that, if you dig in deeper, the shooting discrepancy, but what's more interesting is teams are taking the same shots. It's not like we're giving up easier shots or not trying, so to speak. At least the analytics don't say that. But teams are making a lot more, on like a big gap, like 8% better. So not me saying it, but I was interested reading it from somebody that's not a fan or part of our market, just what's going on with the Warriors. Hard to explain. It's not an excuse. It's not as if, hey, who cares? People use the term, it's a make or miss league. You don't love just leaning on that all the time. I think it's a little bit more than that. But it was interesting to read it, Matt, and just objectively take a look and say, what's going on? Because it's historically rare. It doesn't make sense that we are one team at home and another team on the road with especially a veteran team. You covered some of our early teams, and youth usually struggles on the road. And we have some youth, but a lot of the games we've lost have come down to close games with our veterans on the floor, and we haven't gotten it done. So, yes, would a 3-2 record mean more than 2-3, or would 5-0? I mean, the extreme would probably mean more, Matt, if we had a 4-1 or 1-4, I guess. You just look at it, you got to be honest and say, these are games that are really important and we didn't get it done. What does that mean? it'll tell you something. When we do this, I guess 2 weeks from now it'll be different. But next Wednesday, you'll be talking about us in a probably different way. I suppose if at that time we're what, 2? I think we play that night, so maybe we're 2-2 at that point. I don't know. But yeah, it's something to look at.
Bob, Stoney just took me back a little ways, 2015, and said basically the core four, the core, they're trying to do something that they did in 15. And the word of the week has been disconnect. There's like a disconnect between the veterans and the young players. And I'll put Poole in there. And I think that's unfair. But when you hear that, or just that thought, what is that fair to the youngsters?
I don't think so, but I don't. I get to see the team win and lose. I don't. I've seen a lot of dysfunction in the NBA. Matt has seen that. Goo, if you cover a team, Matt can tell you. It's all over the place. I really don't think this team deserves the label disconnected. I think we've had our bumps for sure, but if you were to be in the locker room post game or after a win or loss, it's not like guys don't like each other and are constantly at each other. I think there's been a struggle to figure out any kind of rhythm, and that's real, but I don't know that I would call that a disconnected team as much as a team that's trying to figure itself out. So, any team that's kind of in this place in the NBA where you're a little bit around 500, it's probably the type of teams that face the most scrutiny because you can't figure out what you are. If you suck, it's easy. That team sucks. And if you're great, well, they're great. And everybody says they're super connected and everything's perfect. When you're in the middle, you get these ups and downs, and then you try to figure it out. Why is it? Why is it this team 500? What's going on? And it's not always clear. But I wouldn't use that term personally from what I see.
Bob Myers joining us on 95.7 The Game. Bill Walsh always said he'd rather get rid of a player a year early than a year late. I'm just wondering, when you look at your core, Curry's extended for a while. Draymond can opt out at the end of this year, and Clay's got 2 more years. How do you even factor in what you think they're going to be in a year or two?
It's so tough now because the league is a year-to-year thing more than it's ever been. These contracts are shorter. Players are on the move more than ever. Windows are small. I think you just got to look at where you're at in that moment. What are your expectations? With those guys, they're all playing well. They're all, especially of late, they're very productive NBA players. And certainly they've played a ton of games, but they've played a ton of games together. But it's never perfect as far as too long, too soon, just the right time. I don't think that necessarily exists in sports where you get everything perfectly right when you make decisions. But I would say to those guys, there's something about them that wins, and they've just done that. That's why every time you get to this point in the season, it gets really interesting for me, for you, for the fans to see what those guys are kind of made of. It's when Draymond kind of hurt his wrist. It was interesting I was back in the locker room with him, and I said this to someone else. They asked him to get an X-ray. He goes, "No, I'm not getting an X-ray." And I just never see players do that. He goes, "I'm playing. Put some tape on it. I'm not getting an X-ray. We can do that at halftime." So there's something about that group, and Clay, you're watching him come into his own. Steph's just, without question, fantastic, and his confidence is elite. The other night playing Milwaukee, it was kind of a quieter game for Steph, and all of a sudden it's just the guy scores 20 points in 3 minutes and basically wins the game for us. So, I like watching it too because I just don't know. But those guys, those 3 especially, what I've learned in my 12 years is they know how to win, and it's a really hard thing to do. And it's really hard, Matt, to find players that embody that. It's more than ever, in my opinion, an individual. It's a team sport. People are trying to make it into an individual sport. Not you per se, but like it's trending that way. And for people that just want to put the team ahead and win, those guys are pretty valuable.
Bob, I lead with my heart. I come in some days and Steiny's like, "What do you got?" And I spit it out, and he's like, "Where'd that come from?" And you are right. The metamorphosis we've seen from Klay Thompson, it's just incredible. I'm happy for him. but I'm like a mad scientist in a lab because I feel like I'm a part of the team. Like, Steiny, they're going to hit that button. It might be the playoffs when they win their first road game and shock the world and change the series. But JaMychal Green, he's dealt with the leg infection. He's been out. And, Bob, I'm going to be honest, there were times I'm like, man, but now I feel like he's an extension of Draymond Green out there on a good day. Am I crazy? Or can you speak to, if he can take what I feel like is momentum into the playoffs, that will help you guys?
Yeah, I mean, he's shooting. Yeah, look, anytime you get a big that can stretch the floor, we've always found value with those guys because they can play with Looney and Draymond, whether that was Otto last year, Bielitsa, and JaMychal this year, especially when he's shooting high 40s lately from three. Just opens things up, the physicality. He's a veteran. He's got good energy. But it hasn't been smooth for him either. He's been in and out, injured, in and out of the rotation. I guess credit to him that he's ready. He has been ready lately. He had to earn it, but he's earned these minutes now. So, yeah, I mean, it all has to kind of coalesce come playoff time for any team. It did for us last year. I suppose in years past you could see clearly what we were, what our rotation was. But even last year, kind of trying to figure it out and get it right near the end, probably be the same way this year. Hopefully we get Peyton back. Hopefully we get Wiggins back. But in enough time to figure it out and have some time together. But when you're talking about Clay, you're talking about JaMychal, those are two positive stories of late that have really helped us win some games. And again, these road games, hopefully we can get some wins here on this trip.
Bob Myers joining us on 95.7 The Game. Let me ask you that real quick about coming together, because last year, here's the one thing I was thinking, and you tell me how you respond. The core three is going to be significantly less rested than last year. Curry missed the last 12 games of the regular season. Then he comes back. You had Clay, who only played 32 regular season games. So we only had a half season when he went into the playoffs, and Draymond missed a couple months. Is there any way to calculate, or is there some mechanism in your head where you say, you know what, we did work a little harder this regular season than we have in the past? I wonder if that'll be an issue.
Well, I think there's another issue, too. It's just trying to repeat. It's also coming off a team that played into June, so it's not just working harder. I think it all is tied together, Matt. Coming off a championship, sometimes you just keep running. You just keep that momentum going, and the next season is smooth and great. But often there's I don't want to say hangover. People use that word, but there is a period of, it was a long last season. It was a short break, and we're right back at it. That's why it's so hard to repeat. It's just a hard thing to do in any sport because of the length that you played the previous year. So add that to the fact of we're going to need some heavy effort going into the last however many games here, and that's important. But what does that end up looking like? There's also the confidence that we won it last year, and there's the belief that we can do it again if you're a player. But we'll see that these questions, like I said, the best part about sports is these questions get answered. The only thing that you kind of asterisk is when you have an injury or you're missing a key guy. But if you have your team, you can't just say, well, we lost because we were tired. That's your fault. I mean, it's not anybody's fault. It's just, right. Why were you tired? Well, we should have done something different in the regular season. That's not a good enough reason. So if we're healthy, if any team is healthy going into the playoffs, whatever you do is your answer. I know it's your job to speculate, Guru's job to speculate. Mine is not necessarily to speculate because at this point the deadline's over, the buyout's over. It's more about being patient enough to see what it is. But you do find out. We found out last year what we were. We found out the year we were the worst team what it was. That's why the playoffs are that's why you watch hockey playoffs and baseball and football. It answers these questions.
Yeah, great point, Bob. And, that game against Phoenix the other night to me was symbolic. And the reason I bring that up is we saw Clay get thrown out when he got into it with Booker. And, two of his non-good games were against Phoenix this year. But you mentioned him. He's been in fuego. Two of his best months back-to-back of his career just happened this season. I mean, is there a sense of pride? Like, can you share with us how you feel when you're in your seats watching him get back to this plateau?
Yeah, look, I think you were almost going to mention you were a little down on him, which I don't think you were alone as far as what you were watching early. And I don't think he would agree that he was playing well either. So to watch him find his way out of it isn't easy for these players. The scrutiny's never been more great on athletes, but they're making a ton of money, so people excuse it. But the pressure, the noise, he mentioned even himself, I got to stop listening to the criticism. So it's a personal journey, though, when you're struggling as an athlete. I think you got to figure out your own way to get out of it. Everybody's giving you advice. Everybody's telling you what to do, coaches, friends, family. Oftentimes you got to get out of that yourself, and he kind of has. Not that he hasn't had help, but you're seeing a really good version of Clay, under control. He's rebounding better. He's getting to the rim more. He's being more efficient. He's defending better. He's just playing overall better basketball. It's a big reason why we've won some of those games when Steph was out. But you just see the weapon of a player that can get you 30 points in a half. Obviously, with his shooting, you can't ever leave him. So he takes up some gravity. People use that word with Curry, but he's dangerous. He's dangerous now, and your game plan has to account for a guy like that. And I don't imagine, one thing that I think people sometimes forget, maybe not locally, but what Clay does and what you watched against Phoenix, he can do that in the playoffs. See, that's the difference between these guys. There's many players that put up big numbers, and when it gets harder, they can't. And it's a little bit like the difference between you can make open shots, you're a good three-point shooter, but what happens when the space between you and I decreases? Clay, that space doesn't matter to him. It doesn't affect him.
Or Curry.
He doesn't, or Curry. And you think that's a small thing? That is an enormous thing. And you can talk about pressure. I would fail. I'm just being honest with you guys. I would be the player that would struggle. That's my psyche. I hate to admit it, but I would struggle. I wouldn't. I would not. I just know it about myself. In a pressure moment, I'm not the hitter that could come up in the ninth inning. I wish I was, but those guys are. I mean, they elevate their game, and that's why they've won so much. Most people, and it's not a knock on the people that feel the pressure. The amount of pressure these players feel in the finals, in the conference finals, in elimination games. For whatever reason, these guys get over that. It's so unique to have 3 or 4 guys that are kind of like, doesn't bother me. Not only doesn't bother me, I'm going to give you my A game. I'm going to level up. And you don't ever want to take that for granted, because most people, most athletes, they wish they could do that, but they can't.
No, I think that's right on the money, Bob. Appreciate it. They make harder shots than anybody else.
I'll keep that in mind if we run into each other on the court, Bob.
Yeah, good. I mean, game point, I'm probably going to give it to Steinbeck. I mean, if the competition sucks, I'll score. But if it's pretty good, I gotta.
All right. Well, listen. Good luck on this road trip.
Take it
See if you
easy.
can get a couple, and we'll talk to you in a couple weeks.
All right, fellas, take it easy.